Good evening and welcome in to the first of many postseason editions of Gem State Game Day live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. We will be coming to you live all throughout the postseason to break down all of the biggest, all of the postseason matchups. The opening round of the postseason is upon us this weekend. And so we will bring on our expert panel here in just a moment. But first, want to welcome everybody that's in here live tonight. If you want to be part of the conversation, you've got questions for the panel, you've got a favorite team or a favorite player or a favorite coach or a favorite whatever you want to shout out. Maybe it's a favorite broadcaster. Who knows? You can throw it in the chat and we will throw it up on the screen. We want to interact with you, the fans, tonight as we break down all of these great opening round playoff matchups. And also, while you're hanging out tonight, if you could please like, share, and follow, that will help everyone else find this show a little easier on replay. You can, of course, watch this show anytime at the destinations I mentioned earlier, X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also find this at IdahoSports.com. So with all of that said, let's bring on our expert panel tonight. Joining us from North Idaho, you know him from the North Idaho Prepcast, it is Hayden Uhlencott. Hayden, what's going on?
Yeah, I tell you what, Brandon, I'm so more, excited to have you leading the show rather than myself. I think it fits Idaho sports much better.
Well, I think that was a compliment in there somewhere. I appreciate it. Thank you. Your job is safe. You don't have to butter me up. I'm not even the guy in charge anymore. So Sven is the guy you're going to have to suck up to now, Hayden. So
okay, I'll work on that.
That's the new guy you want to send the bouquet of flowers to. This guy is coming to us live from the Treasure Valley, one of our most seasoned broadcasters down in that Boise area. It's Lucas Gebhardt. What's up, Lucas?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Happy to be here. Happy that it's state football time and ready to get it going.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that Denver Broncos poster on the wall behind you, but we'll let it slide for tonight, I suppose.
6-2, baby. Best year we've had since Peyton left town. So
I feel like they keep getting these like really flimsy wins against like weak competition, and I feel like it's the Breaking Bad meme. He can't keep getting away with this.
I mean, you're telling me 33 points in the fourth quarter against the Giants a couple weeks ago. The Jets game was sloppy, but we looked good last week though.
True.
No complaints last week. We scored like 90-something points in the last 5 quarters or something like that. Something crazy. Yes. So offense is clicking.
We'll see who else is clicking on the Idaho high school football scene here in just a moment. But first, our final panelist tonight, you know him from the East Idaho Prepcast, coming to us live from Pocatello. It's Sean Kane. Yo, what's up, Sean?
Hey, that poster's going to have to come down just like that stadium. They're building a new one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's no good. Hey, I'm excited. It's playoff football. I think there's a lot of intriguing stories, so we might as well just jump into it. Brandon, I don't want to take over. Hayden, Brandon, who do I talk to? Oh, wait. Okay, let's go.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to be a free-flowing conversation tonight. We're going to spend approximately 15 minutes on each classification, and that does include, guys, for the first time this year on Gem State Game Day, 8-man football. We're going to talk it all, 6A down to 1A. Every classification will be covered here tonight, but we will start with the big boys at the 6A level, guys. Here is the bracket that has been unveiled here. Rigby, Eagle, Timberline, Coeur d'Alene all get the first-round byes. And then we've got Highland at Mountain View, Owyhee at Rocky Mountain, Capital at Middleton, and Boise at Madison. Sean, first blush at this bracket. Anything jump out to you?
Oh, yeah. I think it's pretty interesting where Highland, they have to go to the Boise area, but they have a Mountain View team. I think that's the best possible draw Highland could have got. And then if you split this thing in half, I feel like Madison isn't in bad shape as well at the bottom half of the draw. With I would say a Coeur d'Alene team that's not firing on all cylinders like normal. If they are able to get past Boise, they've got a good shot there too. So kind of those East Idaho teams where they kind of filled in there. Obviously, Rigby number 1, last year's defending champs. The Red Devils are out in full force. but some pretty good matchups, I think, for the 2 and 3 spot of the East Idaho schools.
That's right. The Rigby Red Devils, if you know, you know. Hayden, what does anything jump out to you about this 6A playoff bracket?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that Rocky, Eagle, and Rigby are all on the top side, and somehow Coeur d'Alene got the lucky draw being on the bottom side with Timberline. I'm not saying, Coeur d'Alene has a real chance to make a tournament run, but how the bracket laid out, it definitely helped them out.
I'll say it. I think they got a pretty good setup here and a chance to get some of their players back healthy. Ben Murray, we think might be back for the quarterfinal round, the great linebacker slot receiver, which is huge. And also one of their top receivers, Lindquist, who had been out as well. So, yeah, the bye came at a good time for Coeur d'Alene, that's for sure. Lucas, what do you think of this 6A bracket?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing that jumps out to me is Timberline getting that bye. Timberline's having one of the best, probably the best year they've had in school history. They've got an absolute gunslinger at quarterback, and I think they've really proved a lot of things when they beat Rocky a couple weeks back. So don't sleep on Timberline is what I'm trying to make. They're built to keep up with teams here in the state playoffs with their quarterback.
Yeah, Timberline did win that epic SIC championship last week over the Eagle Mustangs. Wild back and forth affair, came down to a field goal essentially to win it. Already comments rolling in here about 6A. Doug Swanson in the chat says Highland by 10 over Mountain View. And he also says Pancari, that's Matt Pancari, the head coach at Madison, has CDA's number. Of course, Matt Pancari, the coach at Lewiston for 7 years prior to going to Madison this year. So he knows all about this Coeur d'Alene program. We shall see. Well, let's start with that. Let's start with the Highland Mountain View matchup. And Doug also says cold weather and the Red Devils is bad news for everyone. Yes, especially Rigby as the team on top. They'll have home field advantage until the state championship game. So, okay, let's talk about this Highland Mountain View matchup. We'll start with the Mavericks here. We've got some fun graphics to show you tonight here on Gem State Game Day. There it is. The Mavericks are 6-3, one championship in their history. They missed the playoffs last year, Lucas. Kind of a surprising blip for Mountain View. Their record was the reverse of this last year. They were 3-6 and they missed out. They have Hank Nelson, senior quarterback, and a lot of toys to throw to. Tyler Weaver, Brody Munson, Valentin Gomez-Ricks at running back. Picardo's played running back this year really well. This is a Mountain View team that has been a nice rebound season for the Mavericks.
Yeah, it really has. And I think it really kind of starts with all the returning pieces they had coming back from last year. Last year was sort of a retooling year for them, but they got things going this year, and they're a very well-balanced team, with Hank Nelson and Gomez and Rich Gomez at running back. You can mention guys like Weaver, too, that they can throw the ball to. So there's a lot of weapons that this Mountain View team has. I really like the balance that they've come with this year, and defensively they've been pretty good as well. 6-3 is a great record coming out of the SIC.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, Sean, if we look at Highland's no slouch. The Rams are also 6-3, but because they didn't finish top two over in East Idaho, Rigby and Madison edged out the Rams there, so they had to take an at-large bid, which means they're on the road as a wild card team. Second year in a row, they're heading to the Treasure Valley. Last year, they lost that crazy game to Middleton. I think 6-3 was the final, or maybe 3-0. It was something crazy. Highland, kind of unfinished business this year. We're used to seeing Highland make deep runs into the postseason.
Yeah, and I think it kind of came with Keaton Belknap was the quarterback last year. He got hurt this year, and Jacob Vincent has stepped into that quarterback role. And I think now Highland's finally figured out everyone's roles. It's taken a little longer with those kind of hiccups, but, they can run that RPO with Jacob Vincent a little better. And then we can't, Cedric Mitchell is a do-it-all player. He kicks the punts. He returns the punts. He's the running back, but he lines up as receiver a lot too. So I think Nick Sorrell had the pieces. They just weren't maybe in the spots they needed to be at the start of the season, but that puzzle's coming together late season. So, watch out for this Highland team.
Yeah, seriously. Those twin brothers, right? Cedric Mitchell on offense, Malachi Mitchell on defense. And then McKay Gallo at linebacker, really tough as nails dude there. So that Highland Mountain View matchup to me is one of the most difficult to gauge in the opening round. The other ones I feel like are fairly clear cut. Hayden, what's the most difficult matchup for you to peg in this opening round?
Yeah, I think I would go Middleton and Capital just because of how close it was 2 weeks ago. I mean, it was back and forth, and they're two teams that run the ball really efficiently. And so I don't know. I would kind of lean towards Middleton to win that just because of a kid like Jake Perez. He's had a heck of a year. But I wouldn't be shocked if Capital pulled off that upset. That'd be the game that I really don't feel confident in who I'm picking there.
Okay, well, let's go to that one next then. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to throw in. I mean, Perez is the leading rusher in 6A. He is the Middleton offense. So to me, that game really just comes down to, can you take him out of the game and make somebody else on Middleton beat you? If Capital can do that, then I like Capital. But if it's the Perez show, I think Middleton could win maybe by a couple scores in that one. And then I just want to touch quickly on I missed the point here on Mountain View's defense. This is a defense that gives up 12 points a game. I think that's something that's been a little bit overlooked with them this year because their offense has been so good and so balanced this year. But Mountain View, guys, has one of the best defenses in 6A this year. And I just want to make the point on that.
Yeah, we don't always give the defenses the love that we should here on Gem State Game Day. Here is a couple more comments in the chat here. Our good friend Sam Madison over CDA. All right, Madison's got to get there first. Ryan Skaggs from the North Idaho Prepcast was supposed to be on the show tonight. He says, glad you brought Sean on. My son and I are working on how to debate tonight for his homework, and Sean is a great example of how not to. He then did add, love you, buddy. Ha, ha, ha. So.
Hey, Chat GPT for the win.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Hayden, you wanted to talk about this Middleton Capital matchup, so let's go there. Here are the Middleton Vikings, 6-3 on the season. They have made lots of playoff appearances over the years. They have never actually reached the summit, though. No championships in Middleton history. Bill Brock, veteran coach in his 26th season. And there really is no secret, Hayden, to what they want to do. They're going to give the ball to Jake Perez. They're going to play solid, bend but don't break defense with Drew Holman and DJ Brokow and McConkey and others leading the way there. And then, they're going to perform well on special teams. It's just a gritty, grinded out type of team.
Yeah, 100%. Like we mentioned with Perez, he has 225 carries this year. I mean, that totals out to 25 carries a game. Like, he's getting the rock. I mean, if not every play, just about every other play. And they're going to go to him no matter what, shape the game's looking. They put a lot of trust in that kid, and I think they're going to continue to do so heading into the postseason.
And then on the flip side of this, Lucas, a Capital team that I've been pretty high on this year. Yeah, they're 5-4, but they pushed Rocky Mountain. They lost to Rocky Mountain by only one score earlier this year. Their thing is they've got offense, right? Braden Dudley, the trigger man. They've got Elliott Schrack. They've got Xander Groh. I mean, you see the three key players we listed there are all skill guys. They also have Marcellus Clay, who kind of goes, Quincy Clay, who goes all over the formation. The problem or the question, I guess, for Capital is, Lucas, can they get enough stops defensively? Because Middleton's going to try and keep it a low-scoring game, right?
Yeah, Middleton's going to try to keep it a low-scoring game, and they're going to try to control the clock, too. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a couple 5-6 minute drives out of Middleton in this game, and they're just going to try to control the clock with Perez. That's just kind of their MO. I think the path for Capital is the quarterback right there, Braden Dudley. He's actually, if you look on Max Preps, he has the most passing yards out of any quarterback in 6A. And he's got about 20 yards more than Jack Brent, who's a Division I quarterback over at Timberline. So I think the path for Capital is score and score quickly. If they can find speed the game up, create more possessions for both teams, and really kind of take Middleton out of their Perez comfort zone, that's where Capital is going to win this game. But if Middleton can control the clock with Perez, which they've done basically all year, That's how Middleton's going to win this. To me, it really comes down to how efficient can Capital's passing game be in this game. If they are efficient, I think Capital can certainly win this game.
Yeah, you mentioned it. If Capital can come out and get a quick lead and force Middleton to kind of abandon their clock control offense, yeah, that could be significant for sure. You'll see tonight as we list off teams and all of their championships and semifinal appearances and playoff appearances and all that, you'll see some championships that have an asterisk next to it. Those are unofficial championships. Idaho didn't have an official state playoffs until the late 70s, early 80s for some classifications. They used to have, kind of like college football, the media poll would kind of vote on who the state champion was every year. So Capital, I guess the sports writers in 74 and 77, people said Capital was the best team and the mythical state champion. So that's what that means if you see an asterisk next to those championship years there. Okay, 2 more games to profile here in the opening round. Let's go to Boise and Madison. I guess everybody's assuming Madison's just going to sweep through this thing, so let's just talk about it. The Bobcats 6-3, at least that's what the comments say. 6-3 Madison team. Matt Pancari in his first season over there at Madison. Sean, I think he's done a pretty nice job maintaining what former coach Chandler Rhodes had already laid down as groundwork.
Yeah, the talk always from Madison from last year was their front line, right? On defense and the offensive side of the ball, and it's kind of the same thing, that those lines control a lot of the game. And Matt Pancari's done a great job jumping into this role and getting this team, to the second place finish in one of the hardest 6A divisions, right? Down east 5 and 6. You have Rigby, Mass, and Highland. It's a tough division week in and week out. And I mean, the comments say, yeah, Madison's got this, but you've got a Boise team that's gotten better, I think, as the years went on as well. But Madison, I think finishing the year with a win over Highland gives them a lot of confidence moving forward. And Madison's won some different ways. They've had some low scoring games, a 9-7 win over a Meridian team, which, as you guys just talked about, it's almost like Meridian plays like basketball when there was no shot clock. We'll just hold it until for one shot and the score is 17-18. And so Madison's done that. They've won some high scoring games. They're really the only 6A team in Idaho to give Rigby a run for their money. That game was pretty close. They lost 23-19. So Madison can win it a few different ways. The lines are good. It should be a good battle for Madison.
Yeah, and on the flip side of this, though, Lucas, we do have a Boise team that did. I mean, the key win of their season was over Owyhee 2 weeks ago. That allowed Boise to host a SIC cross-divisional game. It kind of gave them the upper edge on Owyhee, a totally different matchup that Boise was able to come through with. So 4-5. Yeah, the Brave are below 500, but they won the important games that counted. And boy, for a school, Lucas, that hasn't had a win in the playoffs since 1981, the Brave are certainly yearning for maybe a first-round upset.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, remember where this program was just 4 or 5 years ago. And
they weren't on these graphics.
Yeah, right. I mean, just with how far this program has come the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, a playoff win for this program would just mean the world for this program. I think Mike Altieri, the head coach for Boise, has done just an outstanding job, and not only getting numbers into this program, but getting some expectations into this program as well. That being said, going into this matchup against Madison, they're going to have to turn the page on last week. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They got waxed last week in their cross-divisional matchup against Capital. They lost 50-14. So for me, the key for Boise in this one is that first quarter and a half. That's really going to tell you a lot. That first 8 to 10 minutes on what we're going to see from Boise out of this one. Are we going to see kind of similar things to what we saw last week, or are we going to see the team that beat Owyhee by 1 point a couple weeks ago? Are we going to see the team that stuck with Timberline back in early September? And I think those first 8 to 10 minutes are really going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, and we should note that the Brave have turned the keys to the offense over to a freshman quarterback, Wyatt Bauer. Schoolfield, I saw it, was playing receiver a little bit. Maybe there was an injury. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe a Boise fan could tell me in the chat. I haven't been able to follow the Brave as closely as I would have liked to this season, but they have a freshman basically, operating the offense there. And so that will certainly be a key for Boise here in the opening round. And then our final first round matchup is Rocky Mountain and Hawaii, guys. The Grizzlies 8-1 were kind of stunned here. Oh, a residual Madison comment here from Joel Richardson from the East Idaho Prepcast as well. Another large offensive line for Madison, not afraid to take chances on special teams and gave Rigby a run. Yes, Madison certainly did. Lucas, Rocky Mountain 8-1. They stubbed their toe, and they'd kind of been playing with fire all season. I thought they were getting into a lot of shootouts. They were pulling games out of the fire late. It finally burned them against Timberline. And that cost Rocky Mountain a first-round bye. They did win their cross-divisional matchup last week, and they have a nice first-round matchup here against Hawaii. Coming into the season, the Grizzlies were really lauded for all of these Division I athletes they have on their team, and a couple of them on the defensive side of the ball. I guess I've been surprised at how leaky the Rocky Mountain defense has been at times this year.
Yeah, I hear you on that. This Rocky team was so good last year that it's really difficult for them to match what they were last year. That being said, this is still an extremely talented team with tons of Division I talent across the board. You're looking at a couple of them right there on the screen with Rashawn Jones and Jax Tanner, two future Division I athletes there. But the issue for me with Rocky, not necessarily is defensively, but they're a little bit one-dimensional this year. When they fall behind, they don't really have the weapons in place to overcome that. And I think that's what happened against that Timberline team. They ran into a team that could throw the ball all over the yard, and Rocky just couldn't really match them punch for punch. That being said, that Timberline loss may be a blessing in disguise, because this is an 8-1 team now that got their refocus week, if you will, a couple weeks before they head into the state playoffs. So it actually might help Rocky a little bit, because last year they were just running through teams until they ran into Rigby. And so they hadn't really gotten punched in the mouth, if you will, until they played Rigby. Well, here they got punched in the mouth a couple weeks ago against Timberline. So maybe in the long run, that loss might be a blessing in disguise. Who knows?
Yeah, Hayden, what do you think about Rocky Mountain? They really spread the wealth offensively. Each player will have 5 or 6 touches a game. I assume as we get deeper into the playoffs, they'll kind of solidify who their studs are and maybe start feeding them a little bit more.
100%. I mean, stars at the end of the day are going to win you a lot of playoff games. And when the weather starts to get worse, you're going to have to start to rely more on your run game. Rocky has really good athletes. And I mean, Lucas hit on it. I think they're going to be in a spot where I think quite a few people were shocked that they lost to Timberline. And I think they were probably surprised too. And so for them to kind of reevaluate what they're doing, I think is, like Lucas mentioned, a great thing for that program.
Yeah. Okay, and let's talk about the Hawaii side of things here. Sean, we'll go to you for this one. Here are the Storm. They're 5-4. They lost that game to Boise, kind of put them a spot below Boise in their division in the SIC. So they get one of the wild card spots. They and Boise and Highland get the 3 at-large bids this year to the playoffs. Still a young program in its infancy. They got their first playoff win in school history in 2023. Jason Burton in his 3rd season here. And again, Hawaii is a team that, those 3 guys that we listed are all going to be Division I athletes in some sport or another. And yet at times this year, they've just really struggled to put points up on the board.
Yeah, Hawaii starts off the season 5-0. And, there's a lot of chatter. A lot of people are, hey, look out, the Storm's coming. And then now they've lost 4 in a row. And most of the games are pretty close. 1 point loss to Boise, a 3-point loss to Mountain View, and then a 2-point loss to Middleton. So Hawaii's been in all these games and quite hasn't gotten it. But that's one thing, is you weren't getting blown out. So this team, I mean, are they poised to beat a Rocky Mountain? I mean, I don't know. Rocky Mountain's got so much firepower, but Hawaii's been in tough games, and if they can keep this game, kind of tougher, like, low scoring, they're going to have a chance. But the Storms had a great season. And, those scores go a couple way. The Storm are a totally different seed at the end of this thing. So a lot of close games. So they've been in situations. I think they're ready to get another playoff win. It's just going to be a difficult ask against Rocky Mountain.
Yeah.
And they should have won that game last week against Middleton. I mean, they had basically an extra point lined up with 30 seconds left to go, and Middleton drew up the block of the season and came and blocked the field goal with 30 seconds to go. So they essentially had that game won against Middleton last week and let it slip through their fingers. But, I'll touch on that. I think actually Rocky and Middleton are very similar teams in that their offenses are very run heavy. I think the key for Hawaii is they're going to have to limit those big plays that Rocky has. That's what Rocky's lived on offensively all year. So big, explosive 60, 70-yard runs. I think Hawaii offensively could probably keep up with Rocky. I think they have the tools to do that. And I think both teams being run heavy, we're going to see a little bit of a shortened game, less possessions go on both sides. But I worry a little bit about Hawaii defensively in limiting those big plays against Rocky. But I actually think that could be a fairly interesting matchup. I think that could be closer than people think.
All right. I'll give my official picks here. I think it's going to be Madison, Middleton, Rocky. Give me the Rams on the road, upsetting Mountain View. Why not? There's got to be one upset in there, right? Hayden, do you have a first-round upset if you had to pick one?
I think I'd roll with Highland. I think the other three will go fairly chalk.
Lucas, you got a first-round upset special?
I think if I had to pick one, I'd take Capital over Middleton. I do.
Yeah, I like it,
I
Sean.
think that might be
go ahead.
Yeah. I like Mountain
Lucas.
View. I think their defense is better than people are giving them credit for. I think they can limit Highland's offense in that one. So I do like Mountain View at home in that one. I do like Rocky over Middleton, but closer than people think. If you're going to make me pick an upset, I'm going to take Capital over Middleton, and then I'll take Madison over Boise.
Oh, man, I'm going to go Highland over Mountain View. The Rams, Nick Sorrell, they're used to going to Boise and getting wins like this, like a matchup like this. I can see a team that, for the most part, you've said Highland would maybe be in a little more struggle than normally. This could be a way for them to end those struggle talks pretty quickly.
Yeah, I like it. That's the 6A breakdown here on Gem State Game Day. When we come back, the gargantuan 16-team 5A bracket. Aesthetically, not the most pleasing bracket to look at, but one more year of that, and we will break it down for you when Gem State Game Day continues right after this on Idaho.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Brandon Bainey here with Hayden Eulencott, Sean Kane, and Lucas Gebhard. Let's take a look at the 5A. That's the seeding. How about the actual bracket? This thing is ugly. I mean, there's so many teams. We had to really scrunch them in there. And so this one might be hard for folks at home to read. Make your screen full size. It's basically Shelley at Hillcrest, the 16-1. The 9 and the 8 is Lakeland at Lewiston. Cool. 2 district rematches, 2 for 2 there. We've got Ridgeview and Twin Falls in the 13-4. And then the 12-5, Columbia and Century. Bottom half of this bracket, another district rematch, Emmett and Bishop Kelly, 15-2. The 10-7, Blackfoot and Valley View. The 14-3, Bonneville Skyline, that's a district rematch. And then Sandpoint at Minico in the 11-5. So, Sean, half of this bracket, half of the opening round games are district rematches. What are your thoughts about this 5A bracket?
ADs love it. It doesn't cost very much. It's an AD's dream, right? I know. I mean, I was talking to a couple coaches about that, and it would be nice to maybe have the rule that you can't play your same district first round, kind of like maybe in a tennis bracket. I just don't know if it would work out. Like if you could switch them, if you had to switch them so much that it just wouldn't make sense. But it's tough to have those first round same opponents. I know Coach Moshholder at Hillcrest. He had done his own Bainey bracketology and pretty much knew that it was going to be Shelley, and wasn't super excited for that. I think you're just not. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't feel like a playoff game playing your same district opponent first round. And then on the other side of that, if you had less games, that probably wouldn't happen, which you're probably going to go to, Brandon. But yeah, that's 80s dream. People's little bit of a nightmare. Like doesn't quite wake you up, but you kind of stuttered. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Here's Jeb Harrison in the chat. You guys can all hear me okay? Yes?
Yep.
All good.
Okay. Here's Jeb Harrison in the chat, guys. 5A is like Oprah. You get a game and you get a game. Everybody gets a game. You pretty much, if you have a pulse, you can pretty much qualify for this bracket. You know, we're joking, but we're kind of not. And so it does lead to some upsets occasionally, but for the most part, especially those like 16-1, 15-2 type matchups. I mean, very rarely do we see anything happen there. And I like the idea that you said, Sean, the FCS every year, the Big Sky Conference, Idaho State, those schools, there is a playoff committee that gets together and they say, okay, no conference teams in the opening round of the playoffs, and we're going to seed the bracket. I think that's the natural next step. You use the Max Preps rankings as one piece of the criteria, and then a committee gets together and puts a bracket together that makes sense for everybody else. They do it for wrestling. They do it for tennis. I don't know. I think they could do it for football pretty easily. Hayden, let me get you in on this. What do you think about this 5A bracket?
It's obviously a lot. I don't see how the top 4 teams couldn't get some first round buys, but I think Lakeland is really excited for their game, although they have to play Lewiston, which, travel wise, I think they enjoy. I know Lakeland's fired up for Hillcrest. I've heard that from Ryan Skaggs. I know a lot of the people in North Idaho are pumped for that. If they can get past Lewiston, they really look forward to that rematch potentially against Hillcrest.
If they can get past Lewiston, because despite what the final score said last Friday, that game was very tight until, the last 8 minutes, and then nobody could stop anybody, and it was just crazy. Here is L. Andriel in the chat as Mama to Parker the House Bagley, star defensive end for Lewiston High. She says, it's been a crazy 5 days, exhilarating to experience the Kansas City tiebreaker, playing Lakeland after losing last Friday, then winning yesterday. Emotional ride. Yeah, Lucas, this bracket didn't get released until earlier today because Lakeland, Sandpoint, and Lewiston had to have that 3-way Kansas City tiebreaker that IdahoSports.com broadcasted last night because the district champion gets a home playoff game and the other 2 have to hit the road because of the predetermined bracket where the top 8 seeds automatically get top 8 seeds based on district representation. So you've got teams that are ranked like 13th in the Max Preps rankings getting a home game, whereas Sandpoint, which was ranked like 6th, and Blackfoot, which was 5th, they've got to hit the road for the opening round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's just shows the importance of winning games in your district, right? I actually kind of like the way that's set up because it throws a little more importance in those games. Now, I've always thought that a Kansas City tiebreaker would be so hard to play in. It's like when you're playing, you're used to playing, Friday night, maybe you have a little bit of a conditioning Saturday, and then Sunday's a rest day, or at least it was when I was playing. To turn around and play Monday, which is usually like shells, and you're putting your season on the line. I've always thought that those would be tough as a player to come and play in, but very exciting for us as fans and media to watch it. It was certainly a lot of drama to unpack in that 5A bracket. And then it just has all these ramifications throughout the bracket, right? Because we don't know what's happening up north, so we don't know matchups otherwhere in the bracket too. So when you think about it game planning wise from a coaching standpoint, it's a little bit short of a week game plan wise going into this 5A bracket for a lot of these schools.
Yeah, just think about how it used to be back in the day where like at least Lewiston, Sandpoint, and Lakeland all knew they were going to make the playoffs no matter what happened. Back in the day, it was cutthroat. It was like, the district only gets one spot. So you got to win this or you're sitting at home for the playoffs. Like it used to be way more cutthroat, that's for sure. So, all right, let's start unpacking this thing. We'll just work our way down top to bottom here. Let's start with the Hillcrest Knights. They come in as the defending state champions. They are also that number 1 overall seed. Let me get their slide up and running here. Sean, talk to me about Hillcrest. This is a team you've seen a lot this year. They're 8-1. The only loss came to Rigby, a Class 6A school, and they bring back a lot of studs from last year's team.
Yeah, I mean, they bring the player of the year, Sweetwood, quarterback, back, and he's kind of the do-it-all quarterback. Can throw it, can run it. It's a pretty balanced offense with Dak Sargent in the back, who was hurt, who's back, and that makes a huge difference. He also plays linebacker for him, so that's a big get back for the Hillcrest Knights. But they're just they're big up front, and they do everything very well. They also have a phenomenal kicker on the team as well. I mean, they just play all 3 phases of the game very well. Obviously, their offensive players stick out on the stats, but defensive is why I think they won last year personally. A couple interceptions in that championship game, and I think this year too the defense is pretty solid, and they have, I think, a harder half of the bracket, being the number 1 seed, to make it back there. Just at first glance, I feel like they kind of, being the number 1 seed, you don't think you would have the harder bracket, but that's how it panned out. I think they have a little tougher road to get back to that championship game, but a really well-balanced team. Coach Mossholder, he's got a lot of good coaches. I think that's one thing. They have a lot of Division I talent on the coaching side. And again, he always, they came from when they didn't win a season to state champions and being in a championship game. So this team has experienced, not all the players, but the staff has experienced the gamut of not winning a game to winning a state championship game. There's a lot of experience. They know what they need to do to get it done. And they're going to be they're a favorite, I think, big time. They're number 1 seed, but I think to a lot of people, this is a favorite going forward.
Yeah, go ahead and let's just keep the East Idaho train rolling here. Sean, tell me a little bit about Shelley. They're 2-7. They didn't win their last 2 games until like very late in the year. They were like 0-6 and still kind of in the bracket when we did the bracketology, but they won a couple games down the stretch that they needed to, and much healthier than they were last year. Last year, they were just decimated by injuries by the end of the season.
Yeah, and Shelley's had 3 coaches in 3 years, so it's taken a while. They don't have the numbers as they normally do, but they can do a wing tee, and they also can kind of do a spread offense, so they can throw a lot of different looks at you. Mossholder from Hillcrest actually said Shelley was one of the tougher teams that they had to play during the year just by their style and how hard they play. So, at 2-7, it's always like, should they be in the playoffs? Well, I mean, they're a dangerous team. I just don't know if they're going to have enough firepower to take down a Hillcrest team over 4 quarters of play.
Yeah, might be tough for sure. In the chat, Joel says a lot of weapons. Hillcrest does a good job of developing their depth. That is for sure. So, all right, let's take a look at this bracket again here. The 5A bracket. That's the 2A bracket. A 5A bracket here. Lewiston and Lakeland. Hayden, you're up. Talk to me about the Lewiston Bengals, 3-6, and yet district champions. They get that sweet, sweet home playoff game.
Yeah, talk about getting hot at the right time and getting healthy, having Mason way back after missing, 3 quarters of the season. And it's a team that's, really well coached with Zane Hobart. I think he's done a great job, especially even getting his troops together for that game on Monday for the Kansas City tiebreaker. Just the way they play aggressive. They are playing to win every single time. And I think they're a team that I just would not want to play because they're getting better and better. Mason Way is just getting more reps. Coach Hobart and Justin Podrowski are just getting better as coaches on the offensive side of the ball. This is a team that's just getting dangerous the further the season gets into the season.
And then Lakeland, a team that pushed Lewiston in that it went all 5 games, the Kansas City tiebreaker. That's the maximum it can go. The Hawks 8-1. The only blemish was that loss to Sandpoint. This is a Lakeland team that was a state semifinalist last year, Hayden.
Yeah, this Lakeland team's good. This team doesn't get enough credit, partially probably because of who they've played this year. They haven't played a ton of tough teams, and I think that's hurt them, especially kind of when it comes to the max preps. I think they could have been ranked a little higher, assuming they win their league and we don't have the Kansas City tiebreaker. But this is a team that has a phenomenal offensive line. They are probably one of the best in Northern Idaho, and they'll move some people. Having Griffin Tamagi running the ball behind him. Cash Lund's a great receiver, like we see on the screen. They're really tough to play against. They play extremely physical, and they're a team that, like I mentioned earlier, they really want that shot against Hillcrest, and having that only 2-hour drive down south to Lewiston is really more of a benefit than what it could have been. They could have been heading down to Southern Idaho, and it could have been a lot tougher over road. And so this really works out for Lakeland to get that game, although I'm kind of shocked it's not on Saturday, but I've heard that's because of the state cross-country meet on Friday and Saturday, or Saturday rather. So, but I think Lakeland has a real shot. It's just going to be tough against a team that you've played, 3 times in 7 days.
Yeah. I like Lakeland here. They've just been the more proven team over the course of the season. Tim Silflo says Coach Hobart knows a lot about playoff football. Yes, all those years at Kendrick. He'll have Lewiston ready to go and fired up for the game. That is going to be a really fun first-round game, and it'll be one we're keeping an eye on for sure. Okay, up next is, I got to squint to look at this bracket, guys. Twin Falls and Ridgeview. Lucas, you got to see Twin Falls last year in the opening round of the playoffs. They are very solid. They pushed Hillcrest a couple weeks ago. It was, I think, a 2-score win for the Knights. The Bruins are 7-2. I think they're in a good spot in terms of the bracket. Ben Coring's a great coach, and Ty Hess, the quarterback, senior, one of the best in the state.
Yeah, I mean, anytime Coring's coaching a team, it's a team that's going to be at the table. So, I mean, you look at this Twin team; they're 7-2. The 2 losses are to Hillcrest, which we've talked about how good they are, number 1 seed in the bracket. The other loss is a 1-point loss in overtime to Sandpoint. So, I mean, I think Twins got as good of a resume as anyone coming into this state bracket here. I mean, they got some big time wins. They blew out Minico. You look at they've blown out a lot of schools. They beat Valley View 37-0. That's another state playoff team. They beat Pocatello 44-14, and Burley 41-0. Right. So this is a team that's proven that the record they are as advertised with that 7-2 record. I do think the schedule hurt them a little bit in terms of their max prep seeding. If they played it, I think they should be ranked a little bit higher, I think, than what they are right now. But I think this is certainly a team that can win a game, maybe 2, here in the state playoffs.
Yeah, the hard part is that Great Basin Conference that they played in this year. No offense to Burley, Mountain Home, Jerome, and even Canyon Ridge, but they really brought down the rest of the conference, that's for sure. And then this has got to be one of the best stories of the year, Lucas, no matter what classification. Ridgeview, look at all this. Championships, none. Games, none. Semifinals, none. Playoff appearances, none. Last playoff win, never. They've never been to the playoffs. First time in school history.
Yeah, so welcome to the playoff chat here, Ridgeview. So first of all, just want to congratulate them on this is by far the best season they've had in program history. 6-3, getting above 500, getting to the playoffs. First year head coach, things are certainly looking bright for Ridgeview. So and now comes the fun part, right? They get to go on the road and play a Twin Falls team that's. Treasure Valley teams don't get to leave the Treasure Valley a whole lot. So that's another little nugget there for this team. So, but they've certainly got some playmakers across the board. So they're, you're looking at them here with 2 of them are on defense, right? So this is a tough team to throw against. And then you also got one of the better quarterbacks in the SIC as well coming at you. That being said, I think Twin Falls has one of the best secondaries in 5A. So I think that I do think this is a pretty tough matchup for Ridgeview. I do like Twin to win this game, but yeah, Ridgeview is having an incredible year, and it's good to see them in the state playoffs.
Yeah, really fun. Gary Thorson has turned around to several struggling programs in Oregon over the years. Now he's done it year one at Ridgeview. Bottom half of the bracket. One more game in the top half. Okay, it's Century and Columbia. Sean, will the Century Diamondbacks ever lose again? They're 8-0.
I mean, I can't answer that. Okay. I mean, we're really putting me to the furnace here. Hey, the Diamondbacks, man, this is a team that, I got to go watch the game against the Pocatello Thunder. And this is a team that won all phases of the game and has just been an amazing run. And a greatest story is Ridgeview the Diamondbacks have got to be a great story. They 0-17 in the past 2 years. They haven't won a game in what seems to be forever. And then to go undefeated during the regular season, win back the district title, is just amazing. And I'll be honest, they're a team that's got a lot of upside, and it comes to the way of offensive weapons. Zen Fleshman, he did get offered to Air Force. He plays tight end, mostly does a lot of blocking for that second guy listed, Tito Volano. I actually chatted with him today. He's excited to play this game as well. And Tito is one of the leading rushers I think he's the leading junior rusher in the state of Idaho as a junior. If you just look at the junior stats, that guy can run the ball big time. Carter Ward plays defense, great defensive back. They also have Adrian Gonzalez at defensive back, and I think he's tied with most interceptions in 5A football right now. So you've got a team, Ryan Fleshman. It's a second stint. It was not an easy road. It wasn't paved with gold bricks. There were some holes in that road, but man, has it been fun to watch this team grow and just really change kind of the culture and the way people view football at Century.
Yeah, it's been a fun season for the Diamondbacks. They get a home game here, Lucas, against Columbia. Another one of these, we joked about this a couple weeks ago on Gem State Game Day. Like the order of predicted finish was almost like flip-flopped this year in the SIC, where like Columbia, Ridgeview were kind of counted out as also rans, and they ended up finishing near the top of the standings. Columbia at 6-3. This is one of their best seasons in years as well.
Yeah, and those 3 losses have been by a combined 5 points. I mean, they've been in some really close games. Lost to Valley View by a point, lost to Ridgeview by 2 points, lost to Bishop Kelly by 2 points. So this is a team that's taken some really good teams to the brink, and a lot of that is due to their running back. And they have the leading rusher in 5A. Their running back has over 1,200 yards coming into the state playoffs. So this is a team that can run the ball. It's a team that's not afraid to go toe-to-toe with the big names. And they've been in it with those big names throughout the year. So I think Columbia is a team that I'm not saying they're going to make a deep run, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're a team that upsets somebody in this first round.
Yeah, it's kind of the upset special I'm leaning towards on that top half of the bracket. Yeah. If you don't count Lakeland over Lewiston, the 9 over the 8, that would be another quote unquote upset for me. They're an 8-1 team in upset. Sure. Okay. Bottom half of the bracket. We've got Bishop Kelly and hey, Lucas, you're up. Here we go. Bishop Kelly. Tell me about the Knights. They're 9-0, and yet they've been in some very close games against some of the other teams in the SIC. They're a team that I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I feel like it didn't happen 2 years ago when they beat Hillcrest in the championship, but more often than not, it seems like recently in the playoffs, like last year, they lost to Minico in the second round. And so to me, I'm always waiting for that other shoe to drop with BK.
Yeah, I hear you. That Minico game went, I think it was triple overtime last year. So, I mean, it's a team that has, kind of been, and we just mentioned another close game that they've had this year, right? That 2-point win against Columbia. But I do really like Bishop Kelly this year. I think this is a better team this year than they were last year, as you can see by their 9-0 record. I think their quarterback, Ben Avila, is one of the best quarterbacks in 5A. They've got all kinds of weapons to throw to. It's a balanced offense. They have one of the best defenses in 5A as well. So I do think that Bishop Kelly can and probably will make a deep run in the state playoffs. They kind of fall victim pretty much every year to the Max Prep rankings of not playing as strong of a schedule as the Hillcrest and the Skylines of the world. So that's why you see them down at this 2 seed. But Sean mentioned when we started talking about this bracket that Hillcrest is a favorite. And I'm here to tell you that I think Bishop Kelly's a favorite too. I really do like this team, and I think that loss last year may help them with a little bit of that focus coming into this state playoffs.
An interesting data point, Hillcrest's only loss was to Rigby. Bishop Kelly did beat Rigby earlier this year.
Yeah,
so that is maybe another.
Yeah.
And yet Max Prep says, yeah, that's nice. We don't take that into account.
For real. Yeah. I mean, if there's any team that hasn't benefited from the Max Prep rankings throughout these last few years, I think it's Bishop Kelly.
And yet you will find no sympathy for the plight of Bishop Kelly.
Right. Exactly.
Hillcrest, I mean, but you can't really, Hillcrest's conference is way stronger than Bishop Kelly's conference. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think I agree with the Rigby win, but if we go by conference and what Hillcrest has to play in and out of their conference, I think it's far superior than what Bishop Kelly has to play in conference.
Yeah, I just gotta say that to the point of the last few years, the brackets have came out, and I've been a little bit, maybe not necessarily this year. I think we all kind of knew Hillcrest would be one, but the last few years I've been kind of a little bit surprised at where Bishop Kelly has been ranked. I think they're at times a better team than what their ranking has been in the 5A bracket the last few years.
Yeah. Here's Michael Monroe in the chat. This classification state champions since 2000. It's been from East Idaho 9 times, all but 9 times, and 7 of those 9 were Bishop Kelly. Yeah, it's pretty much either East Idaho or Bishop Kelly.
Or BK.
Can you guys name the 2 non East Idaho or BK teams that won it all?
I want to say Sandpoint won once.
Yeah, that was in 1997. I know one of them was Twin Falls in 2004. The Bruins won in 2004.
I'm going to say not Ridgeview.
Yeah, good answer.
$1, Bob.
Michael's going to have to help us out. I know Twin Falls in 2004 was one of them, and I'm not sure about the other one, so I'd be very interested to know what that second one was, Michael. Oh, Brennan.
I want to say like a Minico, maybe.
Look at this, Coach.
Kuna. Yeah, they were down. Yeah, they were down. Yep.
Yeah, they're a 6A now. Coach Mossholder with the answer. Boy, sports trivia with Coach Mossholder from Hillcrest.
That's an out of the box question because they're up in 6A now. So
yeah, a little trick question there for sure.
Asterisk that one.
That's right. All right. I swear, Lucas, we're going to get to teams in other parts of the state eventually, but here is another District 3 team playing Bishop Kelly. Emmett, 4-5. I don't know if there's a coach that gets more out of his team than Rich Hargett. I mean, they're pretty much a 4A school. They're moving back down next year. Their starting quarterback suffered a catastrophic injury out for the season in the summer before the season even begins. And yet here they are, 4-5. They had several agonizingly close losses and just a team nobody really wants to play this time of year.
Yeah, and Emmett's never a team that you want to play in the state playoffs. Partly because we talk about your classic, this is how you win playoff football games, and it's what Emmett is. Pretty much you're in and you're out, tough defense, running the ball kind of philosophy. It's a tough matchup with Bishop Kelly. The one thing that I think Emmett does have going for him is we literally just saw this game. It was a 35-36 win for Bishop Kelly last week. So, if Emmett's able to flip the script a little bit and kind of turn some things around and get a little bit of a quick game plan together, that could help them. But I think we're going to see a very similar game this week that we saw last week. And I think that game last week was even at Bishop Kelly too. So I think it's literally the exact same game. So I think I anticipate seeing a pretty similar outcome. I think Emmett can maybe stick with them for maybe 2.5, maybe 3 quarters, but I do think Bishop Kelly does end up pulling away in this one.
Yeah, for sure. Gabe Montero wants to know, did I miss 3A yet? No, we're getting there. We're making the slow climb to 3A. We got to get through this 16 team slog of a 5A bracket here. We're almost done. I promise. We'll go a little more quickly with these last couple matchups here. Okay. We've also got Blackfoot, And Valley, boy, okay, Lucas, let me tee it up
I'm
for
up
you.
again.
Yeah, I swear we'll hear from other people eventually. Valley View is kind of in the same boat. They've had some real funky scores this year. It appears to me they don't really kick PATs. They just go for 2 every time they score. It leads to some interesting numbers. They're 5-4. Shea McClellan in his second season. Again, this is a team that always seems to, this time of year, always seem to be playing their absolute best. They have 2 impact game changers on both sides of the ball. Onyx Carson at running back and Evert Eels at defensive end. Just an absolute game wrecker. Last year, Valley View got the first round upset, and then they almost beat Lakeland in the quarterfinals last year. Everybody kind of forgets that. They had to lead late against Lakeland. And so this is a Valley View team that's kind of feisty.
Yeah, they are, and they've been feisty ever since Shane McClellan has taken over at Valley View, and it's been running game and defense. Not quite as much this year as it was last year. Last year, Valley View had one of the best defenses in 5A, and I was driving the bandwagon with them. I was loving Valley View. This year, they're giving up 18 points a game. Onyx Carson's still having a great year, but not quite the yardage that he was getting last year. That being said, sort of a little bit of a new season when you enter the state playoffs, and it's kind of that 1-week season mindset. And I think that they do have one of the best coaches in 5A here at Shane McClellan, and I think he's shown that getting this program to the point that it is over these last 2 years. So I think this Valley View team is going to be ready. I think they're going to run the ball efficiently. I think they're going to play tough defense, and that is always tough to beat this time of year.
Yep. And then their opponent is Blackfoot. Sean, what do you know about this Blackfoot team? 6-3, according to Max Preps, like the 5th best team in football, but here they are as the 9 seed, having to hit the road and go to Valley View.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Blackfoot is a team I was high on all year. Josh Stewart, his second year with the Broncos, and they have a potent offense, some good seniors. They have a good mix of lower classmen too. This Blackfoot team played, Skyline close, 35-21. They played Madison pretty close, 32-24. They've only lost to basically teams that are higher ranked to them. They haven't had any blips on the season, and they play in this very tough conference with Skyline and Hillcrest, and they've played pretty well. I think this is just a classic tango of offense versus defense. Will Valley View's defense reign supreme, or can the Broncos offense get some points up on the score? But I think if it gets into a drag out, low scoring game like Valley View has tried to do all year, it could be tough road for the Broncos.
Yeah. We'll see. This to me is going to be, I think, the most fun matchup of the first round, actually. I think this one's going to be tons of fun. Okay, East Idaho. We'll keep it rolling here, Sean. Skyline and Bonneville, the rematch. Here are the Grays at 7-2. I got to see Skyline very early on at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. You tell me if I'm right here, Sean. Skyline, to me, is a team. They were platooning quarterbacks at the time. They were really leaning on their defense, and Zion Crockett is such an impactful player. It was almost like he was on a pitch count. They were like, okay, we know we've got Zion for like 20 high-impact plays. How are we going to allocate it? He ended up running the ball like 7 times, coming up with like 4 receptions, returning a couple of kicks. And in crunch time, when they really needed him to, he was out there playing corner and guarding the other team's best wide receiver as well. It seems like they've kind of used Crockett all over, but they've been deliberate where and when they want to deploy him. Yeah,
and I think he punts it too as well. I think he punts the ball as well. He does it all. Skyline was running 2 quarterbacks. I believe Cooper Thomas got hurt. So it's been the last game I saw against Highland, it was all John Giannini III at quarterback. But Skyline's a team, okay, you can look at the graphic. They go to the playoffs. And not do they just go to the playoffs, they go to the semifinals, right? 15 final appearances. They're in the championship last game, where I don't think their offense is as potent this year. The defense with Taylor, Gage Terrell was one of the leading tacklers in 5A football. The defense is good enough to beat any team. To me, is the offense good enough to beat teams? Because the defense can do it. I mean, they got 2 onside kicks at once, 2 onside kicks in a row, and almost came back on Hillcrest late in the game. So Skyline's a team that knows how to win in the playoffs, and you just really can't count them out.
Yeah. And then they get Bonneville right away. 3-6 are the Bees. Bonneville looking for that first playoff win since 1996. Sean, Shane Stevenson in his second season with this Bonneville squad. What do they have to do to beat Skyline?
Well, I think they've got to run the ball well, and control the clock and not let Skyline. Skyline likes to get big plays from Crockett. If they can eliminate big plays from Skyline and keep the game close in time management with the running the ball, then they got a shot. But I think it's just going to be difficult. And this is the same matchup like BK and Emmett, right? They just played the last game of the season, and hey, hello, we're going to play again. At least this game is going to be in the Dome, right? It's the only game not at someone's stadium. Skyline, as we know, really likes to go play in the ICCU Dome. So this game at least will be at a different kind of neutral site.
Yes, for sure. And then our last matchup. Okay, Hayden, you're up. This is all you. It's Sandpoint and it's Minico. Let's start with the Bulldogs first from North Idaho. 7-2, and yet they have not been playing their best down the stretch. They are kind of backing into the playoffs a little bit.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, but they had a bye, and I think that bye helps. You have a week to prepare. I'm sure a portion of that week off was to maybe prep a little bit for that Kansas City tiebreaker, but also kind of look ahead to, how can this team improve internally, whether that's, getting healthy, whether that's, just trying to figure out what's kind of gone wrong lately. And they're a squad that's good. I mean, they have so many just electric athletes. Brock Yarbrough's a stud. Maverick Gomez. You don't even have Jensen Sheets on here. Like, they have a lot of dudes that are really electric, and if they can get the running game going with Jensen Sheets and Jeremiah Palmer, they're going to be a tough team because it opens up so much for this the passing game, like with Maverick Gomez, who's the 200-meter champion in 5A. Like, they have a lot of talent, and it's just, can they put it together, and can they travel? That's a whole nother thought is, you have to go down to Southern Idaho for, what is it, the 4th time this year? It's going to be a challenge, but I think Sandpoint's a team that can do it.
Yeah, they went to Twin Falls. They went to Driggs to play Teton. They went to Missoula, Montana to play Pocatello. They went to Washington not once but twice. Sandpoint's put on the frequent flyer miles this year for sure. And I'm kind of joking with Brock Yarbrough, wide receiver, linebacker, kicker, punter, return man, bus driver. I mean, he does it all. He seriously does it all for Sandpoint. And then Minico, Hayden. Minico 6-3, but boy, Twin Falls really took it to Minico last week in that regular season finale in the Great Basin Conference. They, in the past, have relied on a really stout defense and a strong rushing game. I think this is an interesting one. It wouldn't shock me if Sandpoint went to Minico and got a first-round win.
Yeah, Minico is a team that I think it was earlier in the year, but it was a discussion of, okay, well, they have to play Madison, they have to play Bishop Kelly, and then they're going to get Twin at the end of the year. What's this squad really look like? And they ended up losing those 3 games. And so what's it look like against another team that's super solid like Sandpoint? Luckily for you, you get the home field advantage. You get them on a Friday, I think it is. I think it's Friday. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's Saturday. But you have the advantage there with the travel. And then can you take advantage of it? That's, I think, the opportunity is Sandpoint's kind of at a disadvantage having to come down another time. So this is an opportunity for Minico to really show that they are, the premier crop of the state, but it has to happen against Sandpoint.
Yep, for sure. Oh boy, I'm starting to hear it from the Sandpoint fans in the chat here, guys. Gotta love this. In the chat, Sean Gavin, we can travel. Most travel miles in the state. And Kevin wants to know, Sandpoint lost to Lewiston, then beat undefeated Lakeland to back in. Here's why I say that, Kevin. I got to see Sandpoint middle of the season against Pocatello, and that was impressive. When I watched Sandpoint play, yes, even in the win against Lakeland, to me, they didn't look as good, and not just because of the opponent, but in terms of execution and things like that. I guess I have more of a high expectation for Sandpoint because I saw them like at the absolute zenith earlier this year when they played Pocatello and were still undefeated. And so that's my only thing is I think Sandpoint is okay. I just compared to how they were playing earlier this year.
Brandon, I'll add to that too. I mean, I know we're running long, but I'll be honest. A lot of us kind of thought Sandpoint was going to win the Kansas City tiebreaker because they had the week off.
I would agree.
And I think it was kind of a shock that they didn't. Lakeland and Lewiston rolling a day off break. I think it was kind of surprising to see Sandpoint go 2-0. And so I think that's why we're kind of where we're at, is like, okay, hopefully this team can put it together at the right moment.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think Sandpoint, in terms of an upset special, I mean, if they went to Minico and won, I could see that happening for sure. So a lot of upset specials potentially with this bracket. Too many to discuss because we spent like an hour talking about this behemoth of a bracket. We'll go more quickly on the rest. 4A is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. It's Gem State Game Day first round playoff edition on IdahoSports.com.
Once again, we have contributed to your ideal college savings program. Love, Grandma and Grandpa.
Ideal. Eventually, they'll appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it.
College costs money.
All right, welcome back to Gem State Game Day first round edition, live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, and Instagram account. Please like, share, and follow if you're hanging out live with us tonight. It'll help everybody else find this a little easier on replay. And now, guys, let's go to the 4A bracket. This is where the top 4 seeds, according to Max Preps, get the first round buys, regardless of whether they're from the same conference or not. So Fruitland, Sugar Salem, Homedale, and Kimberly in that order are your top 4 seeds. We've got McCall Donnelly at Buell, the 9 and the 8. Bonners Ferry at American Falls, the 12 and the 5. We've got Gooding and Snake River, the 10 and the 7. And Teton and Weiser, the 11 and the 6. Hayden, just really quickly, 10,000-foot view. What do you think of this bracket?
Oddly, I like Kimberly. I like where Kimberly's at. With them finally getting healthy, with McCrae Bruning back, they played Sugar, they lost to Sugar, they played everyone in the state that's, they played number 1, number 2, number 3, number 7, number 10. They've played a lot of the top teams. I think this is a chance Kimberly could make a run.
Okay. I think really these 4 teams, the 4 teams that got buys, are also evenly matched. It wouldn't surprise me if it was any combination of those 4 playing for the state championship. So let's just dive into it. Let's start with that 5 versus 12 matchup here. Sean, this is a team that I've been really impressed with, American Falls. I got to see them beat Moscow in the opening round of the playoffs last year, and you could see the foundation being laid. Zach Grigg is an electrifying athlete at quarterback. Ty Smith led the state in tackles last year, not just 4A, but the entire state. They've got really good offensive and defensive line play. And American Falls, the expectation is set. Okay, a first-round win isn't enough. They want to get to the semifinals and take that next step.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Zach Griggs is very electrifying. I think a lot of people, and me included, thought American Falls would beat Snake River a couple of weeks ago, but it was a very close game, 17-14. Really kind of their biggest blip on the season, I think, is that Snake River game. They beat a Declo team very well. I think American Falls is poised. It'll be a very interesting game, as Bonners Ferry also has kind of a bell cow running back as well, as I'm sure we'll get into. But it should be a really good game, and I like where American Falls is towards the end of the season.
Yeah, Hayden, let's talk about it. Bonners Ferry, the Keenan Moss show. I mean, he routinely rushes for 200, 250 yards a game.
Yeah, I mean, he puts up 50 carries at times if they need him to. He'll do anything. I mean, there's also been a game where he's, got the ball twice. This team's had a really surprising season, and they're really, I think, happy of what they've accomplished. I don't think anybody picked Bonners Ferry to come in winning this year. I think everyone looked at Moscow, Timberlake maybe to have the season, and Bonners Ferry's had a great year. I think with Keenan Moss, they're a team that's going to run the ball. And like we talked about earlier, running the ball in the playoffs translates. And if you can do that, you can stay in short down and distances, you're going to have a chance. And so I think they're going to put out their best effort against American Falls.
The only thing I'm worried about is it is such a long trip, 9 hours and 20 minutes. So on a bus, you're looking at 10 and a half, 11 hours. That is far. So that is my only concern there with Bonners Ferry and American Falls right off the bat. Let's go to the 6 and 11, Lucas. Weiser is a team that has been in the state semifinals each of the last 3 seasons. They've got the greatest coach in Idaho history coaching them in Tom Harrison. This is their time to shine, right? This is the time of year where Weiser always seems to step up.
Yeah, this time of year where Weiser just turns it up. traditional Weezer style, right? I mean, they got 2 running backs there, Ty Cobb and Cole Engel, that are 2 of the best in the SIC. Engel's a top 10 rusher in the 4A classification as well. I mean, you're looking at the resume here: 20 appearances in the state semifinals and 30 playoff appearances. So that means that out of those 30 playoff appearances, there's only been 10 years where this team hasn't gone to the state semifinals. I mean, this is a team that just knows how to turn it on this time of year, and it's just they're tough, they're physical, they come downhill at you in that wing T offense. So it's a very, very tough team to play this time of year, as that resume outlines.
Yeah, they famously call it the Wolverine T instead of the wing T. The Wolverine T. Ty Cobb, of course, great baseball name, Hall of Famer. Ryan says, props to you guys pushing through. Y'all are on pace to match the World Series game last night. 18 innings and didn't get over until midnight. Yeah, it was pretty crazy for sure. Okay, Weezer's first round opponent is going to be Teton, the number 11 seed. Hayden, let's talk Teton here. They're 2-6. And yet they've played a very rigorous schedule this year. They have Luke Nelson, great quarterback, some really good offensive linemen here. What do you think about Teton?
Hey, I do my, fair share of tuning into the East Idaho Prepcast. I hear Sean Kane's flowers to Luke Nelson. I believe him. I think he's probably really solid. And I think Teton is definitely in because of who they played. You look at the teams like Filer missing out at 5-4, South Fremont, who they lost to in overtime. Are they the team that can play spoiler? I think that's what you have to roll into it with. In the past, they've had success. Granted, that was with David Joyce at the helm. Maybe it's an opportunity for them to rerun that and pull an upset.
Sean, I really wanted Teton to have to play McCall Donnelly because the David Joyce revenge game, but alas.
I'm going to tell you, I've seen Luke Nelson play. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've seen. I just don't know if Teton has the numbers. They have like 5 guys on the bench, and Weezer definitely has more people out on the field. I just don't know if they have enough depth to beat a team like Weezer, but I'm going to tell you, if you get to see a quarterback in the state playoffs, Luke Nelson's one to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on. The 10 and the 7, Gooding and Snake River. Hayden, Gooding at 5-3. Actually, I'll go to Lucas because this is a Boise State guy leading Gooding. John Helmendollar. Man, all this guy does is turn around programs. He did it at Columbia. The only other time Columbia's been in the playoffs besides this year, John Helmendollar was the head coach. He did it at Wendell last season, and now he's done it at Gooding in his first season on the job. The Senators 5-3. The last time they made the playoffs was in 2021. They made it to the state semifinals. They had a guy named Colston Loveland playing for the Senators. That tells you how long ago it was that Gooding's been in the state playoffs.
Yeah, and obviously Loveland is one of the better products that's ever come out of Idaho, right? Top 10 pick in the first round of the draft, playing for the Bears now. But I really like what Gooding has done offensively. This is a team that scores about 30 points a game. The 10-point loss to Buell, and another they gave up last week. They gave up 67 to Kimberly. Obviously, that can't happen this week against Snake River because as I'm pumping this offense's tires, they're probably not going to score 70. But this is an offense that can and has scored throughout the year. They've scored 35 at Jerome. I mentioned the 29 against Buell, even though they lost that game, 41 against Wood River. So it's an offense that has put some points on the board. So if it gets into that kind of game where we're in the upper 20s into the 30s, maybe the 40s, that's a game that Gooding's going to want to try to make this. Gooding's going to want to try to steal a possession at some point in this game too. I think anytime you're a team that's a little bit kind of new to the playoffs and kind of taking that next step as a program, your guys aren't as used to it as some other programs are. So maybe look to steal a possession on a 4th down, or especially early in the game. So that's what I would look for Gooding. Try to keep that offense on the field as much as they can.
Yep, for sure. Gooding will have to encounter Snake River, Sean. The Panthers 5-4. They did win District 5, 17-14 over American Falls. That field goal basically at the end of the game. This is another proud program that just has athletes, and they just seem to execute really well.
Yeah, and Snake River, got to watch them last year in the playoffs. They came against, the Sugar Salem, a tough opponent, right? Obviously, and it was a lot. But you could tell this team had a lot to them, and they've kind of done that. And again, I think as far as 4A goes, they might have had the hardest schedule to start off the year. They played Homedale, Sugar, Kimberly right off the start of the year, and they didn't win those games. The Kimberly game was close. But then they went on to just basically win everything else. So it'll be interesting to see what the Snake River team can do. They've just done such a good job.
Yeah, for sure. And then our final 4A matchup here, guys, is the 9 and the 8. It is McCall Donnelly having to hit the road to Buell. They hosted Buell in the first round. I think it was last year or the year prior to that, and it was an absolute snowstorm in McCall, and Buell went up to McCall and got the win. Hayden, let's talk McCall Donnelly. They're 5-4. Now, 3 of those 4 losses came in the conference to Homedale, Fruitland, and Weiser. I mean, finishing 4th in that conference is not like necessarily an indictment of where they are as a team. They've got weapons all over. Gunnar Newman. You don't see a ton of quarterback defensive end combos, but man, Gunnar Newman, that McCall Donnelly defensive line. I got to see them play Timberlake earlier this year, and they wreaked havoc against Timberlake.
Yeah, Gunnar Newman's a stud. I remember even watching him last year as the backup quarterback. He was actually playing tight end and D-line, and he's good. He's a really all-around athlete. Colt Value has some next-level speed. They're a tough team. You don't even mention Joker Joyce, who's kind of just this jack of all trades. Yeah, they're a team that, like you mentioned, lost to Buell 2 years ago. I will say, David Joyce's team, when he coached for Teton, they played Buell twice in 2022 and 23 in the playoffs, and he beat them both times. So does David Joyce have a little bit of advantage against a Buell team? Maybe. That's something I'm going to keep my eye on, and that's a game that I would not want to be picking because I truly don't know who's going to win.
Yeah, seriously, that's going to be a tough one for sure. And then, Lucas, we do have Buell, who at 6-2, they had their hands full with Filer last week in the regular season finale. I mean, they didn't put that one away until very late. It was just a 1-score game. They've got Zach Azevedo, who probably is going to be Buell's all-time passing leader. I think he's pretty close at typically a run-heavy school. And they have really good offensive line play.
Yeah, they do. And, that game that you mentioned last week was coming off a loss as well. So, you look at a team like this and you kind of wonder if they're playing their best football coming into the state playoffs. And they're going up. It's kind of an interesting matchup to me because you mentioned that Buell likes to throw the ball. Well, McCall loves to run the ball, right? I mean, McCall is a team that you look at the top 5 rushers in 4A right now, and McCall with Value and Newman, they're ranked 3rd and 4th. Both those guys are over 850 rushing yards on the year. So it kind of becomes one of those chess match games where to me, it comes down to coaching. Can McCall control the clock, and can Buell speed the game up? And so that really, to me, is what this game is going to come down to. But it comes down to which team has the lead in the second half. If it's McCall, I really do like McCall in this one. But if McCall is chasing Buell, where Buell's up a score or two kind of late in that second half, Buell probably wins the game. So that's really how I'm kind of looking at this matchup. I do think it's the most intriguing of the matchups we have in this 4A bracket here in this first round.
Yep, agreed. And again, here is the bracket. Really fun matchups opening round. McCall Donnelly and Buell, Bonners Ferry, American Falls, Gooding and Snake River, and Teton and Weiser. All right, 3A state playoffs coming your way right after this. It's the Gem State Game Day first round playoff edition on IdahoSports.com.
As Idahoans, we're not afraid to take risks.
All the way. Go. All the way down.
Driving under the influence is not a risk we're willing to take. Be around to do more of what you love.
Back here on Gem State Game Day, IdahoSports.com, YouTube, Instagram, X account, and Facebook. Brandon Baney, Hayden Uhlencott, Sean Kane, and Lucas Gebhardt here's the 3A state bracket, guys. The 4 conference champions get first round buys. That's Ryrie, Priest River, West Side, and not listed there, Nampa Christian. They'll all be reseeded 1 through 8 on Max Prep's rankings when the quarterfinals begin. Otherwise, we've got the number 6 at number 1 play-in game, Firth and North Fremont. The 7 the 8 and the 1, Firth and North Fremont. The 7 and 2, Melba and Aberdeen. The 6 and the 3 is Malad and West Jefferson. And then you've got New Plymouth and Declo at the 5 and the 4. So let's just start with New Plymouth and Firth, Sean. It's kind of an all East Idaho special. I was very surprised that Firth got into the playoffs at 2-7. They were the last team to get into the field.
Yeah, it was not on my radar either. But it's not a strange place for Firth to be, right? If you're watching at home, you can see the graphic. This is a team that has playoff pedigree. This year is definitely a year where they've kind of taken their hits and lumps and a kind of rebuilding year. But I think at the end of the day, they're just they're probably excited to have one more game. Maybe not against North Fremont, but another game nonetheless.
Yeah, and so here are the Huskies at 7 and 2. Only losses were to Ryrie and Aberdeen in 2 fairly close games. First-year coach and Jason Wright, he's the defensive coordinator. They've just kind of kept it rolling this year, Sean.
Yeah, and that's rolling's a good word. They do a lot of running with Owen Reed, and they just roll over people. And I think the only time the Huskies kind of can get into trouble is maybe when they play teams with a little stronger passing attack. But defensively and the run game are solid, and that's what you need in the playoffs.
Yeah, Andrew Martin and Owen Reed is a nice 1-2 combo for North Fremont, and then Bryce Nedrow and Cam Schulberg anchoring both lines is critical to North Fremont's success as well. Let's go to Melba and Aberdeen. This is another team, Lucas, that got in on the strength of its strength of schedule, I suppose. 2-6. Melba, our intern Jonah Walkenfoos, every week he came on, he's like, I can't believe Melba's a team that's going to make the playoffs, and much too higher.
Where is he tonight?
I know, right? And yet, but Melba, all they can do is go compete, and here they are, 2-6 in the playoffs.
Yeah, here they are, and they've won their last 2 games of the year too. So they've lost 6 in a row, and you're sitting in mid-October, and you're not even eliminated from the playoffs when you're sitting at an 0-6 start. But they got it together. You got to credit them the last 2 weeks. They were able to get wins against Parma and Marsing the last 2 weeks, and neither one of those games were really close too. So if there's one positive you could look at it here from Melba's standpoint, they're playing their best football of the year heading into the state playoffs. So it's another program that I'm sure is excited to get one more game here to end their well they hope not to end their season, but it's a tough matchup with Aberdeen for sure.
Yep. Here's Kellogg Wildcats live in the chat. Kellogg, by the way, not in the playoffs. Max Prep's rankings determining playoff teams gives off some OG BCS vibes. Yeah. And then here's Austin Parks. Melba and Firth have no business in the playoffs. And yet, we're not, Firth and Melba can't be penalized for the system that put them in. And now they have a chance to go prove all of us wrong by getting a first-round knockout. Kellogg Wildcats live ads. Notably, the CIL District 1 and 2 haven't been historically strong since St. Mary's won the title in, I believe that was 2017. But Grangeville being left out is criminal. Hayden, do you want to address that?
I probably should. Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me why the heck Grangeville isn't in, and I don't know. I thought last week we felt pretty good about Grangeville getting the bid, and so I was really surprised to see them not get that. I don't know what else. We kind of talked like, what else do you do? And it's like, okay, well, I guess you can schedule West Side. Like maybe that helps you instead of playing Timberlake, or and also you can't lose. The games you lose, you can't lose them by 40. That's a tough thing to do. And I think Grangeville wishes they were playing. They're 5-4. But at the end of the day, the Max Preps rankings and who you play is important when it comes down to it.
Yeah, St. Mary's had a nice record, but again, they played Salmon, they played Lakeland's JV. Those things just won't help you in the Max Preps era. So it is Melba playing Aberdeen, Sean. This is a team I feel like everyone is look at that tiger on the prowl. Look at that. It's a menacing looking tiger there. Aberdeen is a team I feel like is criminally underrated, perennially underrated. They're 5-3, but all of their losses were fairly tight. And with Lupe Ortiz, I mean, they are always in the ballgame.
Yeah, Lupe Ortiz is at least like guaranteed one playoff win per year, right? It comes with a guarantee. But yeah, Aberdeen, their losses are, to Declo, West Side, and Ryrie, right? All these teams are playing in the postseason. I know for a fact the Aberdeen Tigers, want one of those teams again, right? They want to play, they want a rematch, they want their shot, they want their time in the glory of some of the teams we're already talking about. But Aberdeen Tigers at 5-3 is not a team you want to come play. I mean, the 5-3 doesn't, I think, do it justice just because of the teams they had to play. But Lupe Ortiz, dynamic quarterback, runs it, can throw it, and he's hard to bring down.
Yep. All right, bottom half of the bracket here, we've got Malad and West Jefferson. Hayden, let's talk Malad here. The Dragons are 3-5, but again, they are in a conference with Aberdeen, Declo, and Westside. So it's kind of like the McCall Donnelly thing. Okay, finishing fourth in that league isn't necessarily horrible. Holden Tubbs, stud running back. He is a dude, and him and Drake Morrison have been a nice 1-2 combo in the backfield this year.
Yeah, and it's like you mentioned, it is tough playing against all those good teams, and that's why you're getting in a spot where you get to play against a West Jefferson team that's solid. But yeah, how can you respond? You have this good competition that you've played throughout the season, and how can that translate? Having that good running back, how can that put you in a spot where you can keep it close with West J and have a chance down the stretch?
Yep. And then West J, Sean, I mean, this has been a fantastic year for the Panthers, 7-2, and everyone's been saying all year, the vibe is different out there in Terraton. It's just something's in the air this year out at West J, 7-2. They did lose to Ryrie and North Fremont. Those are their two losses this year. Burton Shaws and Halls up and down the roster. And, of course, I think one of the best secret weapons out there, Legatron, Johnny Bonilla, great offensive and defensive lineman, and a tremendous kicker as well for West J.
Yeah, West J, and just a different vibe for the new conference in East Idaho with Ryrie and North Fremont and West J just all having phenomenal seasons. And again, West Jefferson's the team that's, only lost to North Fremont and Ryrie. They're two conference opponents that are in the top of the ranking. So West Jefferson is definitely a team to watch out for. They're in any other conference, they might win that conference, just the way it panned out. But a really good team this year.
Yep. All right, and then the last matchup is New Plymouth and Declo. Let's talk about Lucas, New Plymouth. Brody Von Bretthorst, wasn't that long ago that he was playing for Weiser. I mean, it was like, I think 2016, 2017, and now here he is coaching New Plymouth for the first time this year. 6-3 in a playoff spot. Pretty good debut campaign.
Yeah, not bad for first-year head coach for sure. It's you look at the resume. You have a couple early losses, one to Fruitland, which Fruitland's the classification this year. You have a loss to Payette as well, and then you have this blowout loss last week to Napa Christian. But Napa Christian, as we mentioned, won the conference, right? So. So three pretty good losses as I look at it. And then you have a quarterback in Cam Mauder, too, who is one of the better quarterbacks, not just in the conference, but I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in this classification as well. So always interesting when you get a team that just hasn't had a playoff win since before the pandemic, which is what New Plymouth has here with their last playoff win coming in 2019. So you just don't know what you're going to get this time of year with a team like that and a first-year head coach. But they've had a really nice season thus far, and I think they set up pretty well in this first round. But, as they get any further, I do worry a little bit about their playoff experience.
Well, if they get a win on the road in the playoffs, they'll have earned it, Hayden, because they have to go to Declo, and The Hornets are 5-4, but they played a really tough schedule this year. Again, Aberdeen, Westside, they're all in the same conference. This is a team that got to the championship. They've gotten to the championship the last 2 years, haven't been able to climb the mountain. Is this the year they finally get it done?
Yeah, I look at this Declo team, although it does say 5-4. Whenever I see the name Declo, I just always assume they're going to be playing in, the last 2 weeks of November. That's just what this program's built on. And so, yeah, I would say there's a real possibility they do. And I'll be honest, looking at the 3A, picture as a whole, I would be really surprised if there's any 3A games that are close opening weekend. I think the teams at the top are the premier teams that are hosting.
Yeah, I agreed. I think this one is the least dramatic, and then line them up for those quarterfinals and let's go. All 8 teams that are in the quarterfinals are all going to be phenomenally matched up, and that to me is when it's going to get really exciting. So, all right, guys, in the chat, no pressure. Will Henneke, Mr. Idaho 8-man himself, patiently awaiting 2A and 1A conversations. Let's see who's done their homework. We'll find out when we talk 8-man playoffs right after this break. It's Gem State Game Day, first round playoff edition on IdahoSports.com.
Once again, we have contributed to your ideal college savings program. Love, Grandma and Grandpa.
Ideal. Eventually, they'll appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it.
College costs money.
All right, a couple of residual 3A comments left over here on Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Pick them for I'm assuming this is for the 3A quarterfinals, potentially, with some of those matchups for sure. And then Gabe Montero, of course, repping the Ryrie Bulldogs. We'll talk Ryrie next week. They get the bye, so they just get to sit back and watch the action. And then we'll talk about Ryrie and their chances moving forward. But let's go to the 8-man brackets here, guys. We'll just do them all in the same segment so we can all get out of here at a decent hour. And again, if you want a longer, more exhaustive conversation about 8-man football, Idaho 8-man Prepcast tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Pacific time, right here on IdahoSports.com. All of these same great destinations. Here's the 2A bracket. Kendrick, Notice, Raft River, and Grace are your 4 conference champions. They get first-round buys. You don't see Raft River and Grace because we're not sure where they're going to end up. They reseed the teams 1 through 8 in the quarterfinals based on max preps. That leaves us with North Idaho just about swept this thing. Hagerman losing to Raft River ensured that Southern Idaho would get 1 first-round playoff game. So it's Potlatch at Hagerman. Otherwise, all North Idaho, it is Valley at Prairie, Oakley at Logos, and Glens Ferry at Kamei. So let's do a little north versus south here. Lucas, let's go south. Let's talk Glens Ferry, the Glens Ferry Pilots. It wasn't that long ago that they were an 11-man power. Now here they are in the 8-man game, back in the playoffs for a second consecutive season. 4-5, got in kind of by the skin of their teeth here. What do the Pilots have to do to go north and get a first-round playoff win?
Well, they got to figure out how to win again. They've lost 3 in a row entering the state playoffs here. Their last win came early October in overtime against Valley. So it's really just for me, it's learning how to win again and getting that confidence back. So like I said earlier in one of the previous classifications that I'm looking at I said about Boise, I'm looking for the first 8 to 10 minutes. I'm looking for the first 8 to 10 minutes here again with Glens Ferry. You got to come out, have a really good first quarter, put yourself in the game and at the table and give yourself an opportunity to win the game, because that's just something that they just haven't done really. The Oakley game was pretty close, but other than that, it's just getting that confidence back, and that's going to happen in that first quarter and a half.
All right, and then Hayden, tell me why the team from the north, in this case Kamei, tell me why the team from the north will win.
Yeah, Kamei is good. That's why. They play the best teams in the state. They're just a solid team. They beat Council. Council's the number 1 team in 1A right now. They've hung with they beat Logos. They beat Prairie. Kendrick's a different league, and we'll talk about that later. But Kamei is just a really good football team with a ton of athletes. Everett Oatman's a solid running back. He flies around. Lawson Landmark's really developing into a good quarterback. Kamei is just a tough team, and they even have a really underrated offensive and defensive line. They're really tough. I'd be very shocked to see Glens Ferry keep it close.
This is a rematch from the opening round last year, is it not, Hayden?
Yep. Me and Paul Kingsbury did that game, and again, it wasn't very close last year either. So I think Kamiah is just a solid team, and when you have to go play in Kamiah, that's also not a fun place to be.
It's not an easy place to get to, so that's a beautiful scenery over there, but not easy to get to for sure. So, all right, so Glenns Ferry and Kamiah there. Okay, let's go south versus north. Sean, the Oakley Hornets, they were 0-6, and then they won 3 in a row. They scheduled Garden Valley on a whim the last week of the season to try and goose those max preps numbers to get the last spot, and they do it. They pull it off. They're 3-6. Oakley's got a proud program history. Look at this, Sean. 23 playoff appearances, 21 times they've been in the semifinals. Can they do it again this year?
I mean, Oakley, they're not so far removed from being a team you're always talking about at the end of the year. At the start of the year, you would have said no, but, winning a few games here at the end, it'll be a difficult task, but the Hornets are moving in the right direction at the right time.
Yeah. And then, okay, counterpoint. Oakley has to go to Logos. Hayden, tell me why the team from the north, the Logos Knights, will win.
Yeah, I will say about Oakley, I think that's the one team from Southern Idaho I wouldn't want to play right now. They are, like Sean said, getting good at the right time. That's just a really well-coached team. But for Logos, they're also well-coached. They're the only team that's hung it with Kendrick, that had the lead against Kendrick at halftime. Logos is extremely physical, one of the most physical teams you'll see in 8-man. And they're really starting to build on their offense, have a really solid run game. Logos is just a really tough team to play against.
Yeah, Logos, well, this is their last year of 8-man football. They are voluntarily moving up to the 11-man ranks next year.
And they're going to be good next year, too.
Yeah, their JV team beat Orofino's varsity earlier this year. So that gives you an idea of where Logos is headed. Okay, north versus south, round 3, Valley and Prairie. Lucas, the Valley Vikings at 6-3. They've had some awesome wins. They've had a couple of heartbreaking losses this year. Thomas Vargas has rushed for over 1,000 yards once again this season. Valley is a team that I think is kind of sneaky. They have to go on the road, but I think this is a pretty good squad.
Yeah, and Vargas really is kind of the straw that turns the drink with this offense. You just mentioned him over 1,000 yards on the year. He's one of the top rushers in 2A when you look at it from a yards per game standpoint. Well over 100 yards is Vargas, but yeah, I mean you mentioned this is a team that's been in some close games. Lost to Glenns Ferry in overtime, and then an 8-point loss to Prairie back in September as well. So it's a team that's been in those close games, but just hasn't quite been able to get over that hump. So when it comes down to it, and you're in it late. This is a team that's been there. And so that may bode well for them because they've been in these moments before, or it could be one of those things where it's like, oh, we've been here before, here we go again kind of deal. And to me, that's going to come down to coaching. Can this coaching staff get them going in that right direction and change that mindset and turn those close losses, into close wins? But it's going to start on the ground with Vargas. They get Vargas going, I think they'll be in it.
Yeah. Okay. And then north versus south. Hayden, tell me why the Prairie Pirates will beat Valley for the second time this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a real tough task. I remember just talking to Ryan Hasselstrom about that. Like they passed the ball really well against Valley, but in the second half, Valley started to run the ball, and although they started to fall behind, they found some success against Prairie. And so has Prairie improved that run defense? That's the question. They're coming off a big loss against Kendrick. Prairie's a good team. I still think they have probably the best coaching staff in the state, and I'm probably biased. But it's a team I just don't want to play in late October. They're solid. They're always ready, and they have a bunch of kids that are ready to roll.
And yet their last playoff win back in 2020, it's been a bit of a drought for the Pirates. So they are looking to break through for the first time in a couple of years here. All right. In our final north versus south matchup, the one time that a team from the south is hosting, Sean, Arg, the Hagerman Pirates at 6-3. They got all the way to the state semifinals last year. Bill Hicks in his 4th season, and then he is retiring at the end of the season. Can Hagerman send him out a happy camper?
I mean, Hagerman is a team that's at times looked like very dominant to me, like a team that is destined, and then there's times that they've had some hiccups. But Kason Knight, the sophomore, right? The sophomore running back linebacker, he's been phenomenal. He's been an honorable mention on the 8-man football 3 stars, right? That's a name. And again, it always kind of translate, right? Good running game equals playoff wins. Can Hagerman keep that up as they move into this bracket? Maybe, but I do like what Hagerman has done for a season, and maybe they can Rudy Bill Hicks up on their shoulders.
Yes. I'm stealing this from Will Henneke, the Idaho 8-man expert. But I think Kason Knight is the most important player to the Hagerman offense. Wyatt Mavencamp, the senior quarterback, of course, led the entire state in passing yardage last year. He is an important player too, but Will says, and I kind of agree with him, Kason Knight is actually the most important player to that Hagerman offense. And then Hayden, tell me why the Potlatch Loggers will go down to Hagerman and get that first round win.
It's going to be a tough ask for Potlatch making that trip down to Hagerman. I could see this game going 2 different ways. I could see Hagerman really blowing this thing open, get the passing game rolling, and it could be tough sledding for the Loggers. Or they have that D line with Brenton Breeze and Jacob Keck and all those dudes that start to get home on Mavencamp, and they could make it tough. And then you have Jay Marshall, who's a really explosive quarterback, have a good running back. If they can get pressure on Mavencamp, they're going to have a real chance to win.
Potlatch, 7 playoff appearances in school history. I believe they are 1-8 all time in the playoffs. 1 win back in 2021 for Potlatch. That's kind of the history there. And then let's take a look at the 1A bracket, guys. Council, Cary, Coeur de Christ, and Deary were your 4 district champions. Again, they don't all show up in the quarterfinals because they get reseeded 1 through 8 based on Max Prep's rankings. But those teams are already into the quarterfinals. We have then Garden Valley at the champion from East Idaho, Chalice, Rockland, and North Gem all finished in a 3-way tie. North Gem had that crazy 78-72 win over Rockland last week. North Gem needed to win by 20 or more to be on top of the point differential tiebreaker. They only won by 6. Not good enough, guys. Sorry. So Chalice gets into the playoffs. They get Garden Valley. We've got Hanson at Tri-Valley, Timberline at Genesee. That's an all-North Idaho matchup. And then Salmon River at Wallace. So let's start with Chalice here, Sean. The Chalice Vikings. Actually, let's start with Garden Valley, the team that's going to go to Chalice, because look at the history for this Garden Valley team, Lucas. 22 playoff appearances in school history, and a lot of times they have been seated on the lower end of the playoffs. 16 semifinal appearances. They just always seem to find a way to get deep into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it right there. 22 appearances, 16 times they're playing in the last 2 weeks of the state playoffs here. The name of the game here is speed and running game, and that's Garden Valley has some players down there as well. So, longtime head coach in Yearsley, which really bodes well for you this time of year. And kind of looking at where they are in this bracket, it's a tough matchup with Chalice. I mean, you're going up against a conference champion, and if you are able to win that game, you get top seeded Council the next week, right? So I don't know if this is the year that they do get back to the state semis, but it is a program that does have a long history of winning in playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. We'll circle back to Chalice because I'm having a hard time finding that graphic right now, Sean, but I promise you will get a chance to say something about Chalice here in just a moment. Let's move down the bracket, guys, and take a look at boy, my computer is freezing up at the wrong time. The next matchup, let's go to Hanson and Tri-Valley. Lucas, will keep it with you over in the Treasure Valley. This is a Tri-Valley team that went toe-to-toe with Council last Friday on IdahoSports.com, lost in an all-time classic 58-50. This is a really good team. And for them, they got to the state semis last year. It's championship or bust for the Titans this season.
Yeah, it's a team that scores over 50 points a game too, which is really going to bode well for you in this classification. Saw the text thread blowing up about that game last week. It sounds like that was one of those instant classic games. And just 58-50, and that ends up being one of their 2 losses. So their season was really bookended with the loss, the one last week, and then they opened the year with the loss to a team from Oregon. To start the year too. So it's a dangerous team. This team knows how to put points on the board, and then defensively as well. I mean, they're no slouch defensively too. They give up 30 points a game, which I know sounds like a lot, but this is 8-man where games are in the 60s and 70s sometimes. So with the schedule that they have, 30 points I don't think is anything to hang your head about, but the eye-popping stat to me is that they score 56 points a game, and that's right up there with some of the best offenses in this classification.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They get the Hanson Huskies here, Hayden. Hanson, 1 playoff appearance in school history. It came back in 2017. They have never won. They're 0-1 in the playoffs all time. Our good friend Brian Hall, our colleague up here in North Idaho, a broadcaster up here, he's a proud Hanson High alum. He told me this is Hanson's first time being with a top 2 finish in the conference and competing for the playoffs since 1971, he told me. And they played 11-man football back then.
Yeah, good for Hanson. I mean, a 7-1 record's nothing to shake your head about. It's just the fact that he got matched up with arguably one of the best teams in the state. It's just a tough draw. I mean, I don't know. I don't really want to go to Cambridge and play that Tri-Valley team that's going to run the ball down your throat. And, if you're Hanson, it's kind of been the conversation this entire prep cast. You have to keep it close the first couple minutes. You can't make the simple mistakes. You can't have those false start penalties. And you just try to get to the second half with being in striking distance against Tri-Valley.
Well, Coach Lane Kirkland, the former Carey head coach, legendary 8-man coach, he'll be on the 8-man prepcast tomorrow night. He has seen Hanson play a couple of times in person, and he said, this looks like a Final Four team to me in 1A football. Now, very tough matchup out of the gates. All right, Sean, as promised, here are the Chalice Vikings. Go ahead and break down the Vikings this season. 4-5, Eastern Idaho Conference champs.
I would think at one point in the season, Chalice maybe didn't think they'd be in the playoffs, right? And so I think going forward now, you're there. You're at 4-5. Is it going to be a tough matchup? Yeah, but you have Garson Applegate. He's a force to be reckoned with at the wide receiver linebacker spot. Erickson, the quarterback, is also a dynamic athlete. So they've got some pieces. And they haven't won a playoff game since 2017. That's before we knew what a pandemic was, Lucas. And it'd be real great for them to get one moving forward. But I think it's a tough matchup.
And only 5 playoff appearances in school history. They did win an unofficial championship in 1976, though. Freshman quarterback and running back Owen Thane and Gus Zerga there. So it's a young group of Vikings this year with a couple of stud seniors. And then, all right, bottom half of the bracket, guys. Let's go Timberline and Genesee, Hayden. This is an all North Idaho special. Spartans getting in, raise some eyebrows. 2-5 was Timberline. Rockland's going, we're 6-3. What the H? Northrep's going, we're 6-3. What the H? Shoshone's going, we're 5-4. What the H? Timberline says, hey, we played some really good teams, including Pomeroy Washington, who is still undefeated. And that's the strength of schedule gets them into the postseason.
Yeah, that would have been the only reason I would have thought they made it. I mean, the win against Lewis County last week helped, and they really took it to him. I think he's a junior now, Corbin Christofferson. He's a really good quarterback. If he has time, he can throw the ball down the field. And yeah, they're solid. I think if you're Timberline, you're happy you're in the playoffs and you're playing a team that you're familiar with, and that's an advantage.
Yep. Timberline won championship in 1968. That was also, ironically, their last playoff win. It came in the 8-man championship game. That was before it was Timberline. Pierce and Weippe used to have their own schools. And so the Weippe Gorillas won the state title in 1968 back in the day there. And then let's talk about Genesee. they had a prime opportunity in front of them, Hayden. This is a game you were at last Friday night for IdahoSports.com. Deary kind of took it to them. I was very surprised. And so the Bulldogs, 7-1, now have to play in the opening round.
Yeah, Genesee was shell-shocked. Deary was extremely impressive. I didn't expect Deary to have that great of a game. And they really took it to Genesee, and Genesee just couldn't get in a rhythm. Every single time they had an opportunity, they'd throw an interception or they'd have a false start and just go backwards. And so can Jackson Banks and Noah Bowman, can they build something? That's the question. And then, you are the third ranked team in the state. How that happens, I'm not entirely sure, but you are the third ranked team. And so you're going to get a great bid if you can take care of business. And so you need to take advantage of this win against Timberline and build momentum heading into the next week.
For sure. All right, guys, home stretch, last game here. It's Salmon River making the long trip north to Wallace. Lucas, the Savages at 6-3, turning the clock back a little bit to yesteryear. First time in the playoffs in a couple of years. Now, they haven't won a playoff game since 2018, but Riley Davis is an absolute stud. A typical game for him is like 150 rushing yards and like 17 tackles on defense. He's absolute stud.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best two-way players in the state, right? And when you look at these 8-man teams, you have to have players like that. You have to have these big game breaker players on offense that can pull off these 60, 70, 80-yard runs, and then guys that can shut it down on defense too. Sam Rivers got one there with Riley Davis. That being said, I've been saying it throughout the night. I always worry about teams that haven't won a playoff game in a while, and Salmon River is one of those. Last playoff win coming, as Sean mentioned, before we knew what a pandemic was, right, back in 2018. So for me, Salmon River, I think the key here is when they score a lot of points, so when they get into the 50s and the 60s, they seem to be doing okay, but their losses are when they give up 72 to Tri-Valley, right? When they give up 64 to Council, gave up 50 to Genesee. So those are their three losses. So for me, the key here is defensively, can they limit their opponents to those big plays? Can they keep Wallace down in those big plays? Because I think the offense is going to come for them, but it's just limiting those big plays and really kind of honing it in defensively for me.
Yep. And then they are playing a high-flying offense in Wallace, the Miners at 7-2. Cooper Miller, only a sophomore, is going to probably go over 1,000 yards rushing and passing again this year, Hayden. And they've got, they stubbed their toe at the end of the season against Court of Christ, and they did lose that game to Genesee earlier this year. But Wallace gets the home game, which is huge.
Yeah, talk about huge. Wallace is not, like you said, Camia is a hard place to get to. Wallace is not a fun place to go to. And that's just a tough place to play. It's in the middle of nowhere. I know they're called the Miners, but you really are in a mining town. And it's tough for a team like Salmon River. And you have a kid like Cooper Miller. I don't think if you have, you watch game tape and Cooper Miller, you don't get a feel for that until you're really in front of him. And that's going to be something that Salmon River is going to have to adjust to on the fly, because Cooper Miller is the real deal, and he's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a really fun set of games this weekend for sure. Lucas, Sean, and Hayden, thank you very much for hanging really long with us. These will get shorter as teams get eliminated, I promise. But we want to give every team kind of their fair share, their proper and due respect, and it's an exciting time for the playoffs. Lucas, thank you for hopping on. We appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. Anytime. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Sean, on a school night, we appreciate you hanging late with us.
Yeah, just write me a note. Thank you.
Okay. And Hayden, you and I are an hour behind everybody else, but still it's late for us too. So thank you, Hayden.
Absolutely. Nothing better than this.
All right. Thank you, everybody that tuned in live tonight on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, X account, or Instagram account. One last time before we leave, if you could like, share, and follow, that'll help everybody else find this a little easier on replay. Otherwise, enjoy the playoff games. They start Friday. A couple of games on Saturday as well. We'll be releasing tomorrow on IdahoSports.com social media which games we will be broadcasting this weekend. Pretty good opening weekend lineup of games, so stay tuned for that. Until then, for Hayden and Sean and Lucas, I'm Brandon Bainey. Thanks for tuning in to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.